So in the build-up to the release of the new CGI remaster of Mewtwo Strikes Back, I had the brilliant idea to watch every single Pokemon movie and rank them all from worst to best. Do I regret it? Yeah, maybe a little bit. But that's what we're doing, goddammit! Today, my good buddy Trent and I will be ranking every single gosh darn Pokemon movie from worst to best.
Hey, what's happening everyone? This is Trent and I here. I am so excited to join Gus in ranking every single Pokemon movie from worst to best, and it has certainly been a nostalgia trip watching all of these movies again, many of them from my childhood, and I hope you are keen to see our rankings.
First of all, I'd like to thank Trent for joining me on this project. It's been a journey, for sure. I wanted to make sure this list was the best it could possibly be, and if it had been left up to just me, I don't think this list would be nearly as thought out and accurate as it is. We'll not only be ranking each one of these movies based on how good they were, from a critic's perspective, but also taking into account the experience we had watching each movie as well as the overall message and impact they had.
Now, one thing I would like to point out is that we will be doing the English dubs of each Pokemon movie purely because they are easier to access for us, and also because we feel like they won't impact our overall viewing of each movie. I know the English dub changed quite a bit. They changed certain elements of each movie, and I know that angers a few Pokemon fans, but we hope you understand why, and we hope you enjoy the video nonetheless.
Before we get started, I'd also like to let you know that Trent and I did a more relaxed, more detailed discussion where we run down our ranking and talk in a little more detail about each movie and why it's ranked where it is. It's pretty long, but if you're interested, check the description or the iCard to watch it. After many, many hours of watching Ash do dumb shit, we have finally put together a final ranking. So now, we present to you Gus and Trent's absolutely exhausted ranking of every single goddamn Pokemon movie from worst to best. How many times does Ash die again? Edition. Let's get on with it. Oh, and there will be spoilers for all the movies, obviously.
Number 21, Destiny Deoxys. Hey you, wanna hear a joke? Destiny Deoxys. Yeah, now if I had two words to describe this movie, it would be big oof, alright? This movie ain't great. Its baffling, nonsensical moments outweigh the kinda decent, slightly funny moments. The plot was dragged out, the new city was ugly as fuck, and stupidly designed. The only kind of interesting moments present was having Tori, this kid that doesn't like Pokemon. However, the problem is that this guy who doesn't like Pokemon was a little bitch, and his backstory wasn't really interesting, and the movie gave us no reason for us to be invested in this character.
Fuck Tori, he's a little bitch!
Early Pokemon movies, I noticed, were really inconsistent with 3D animation. On occasion it would look good and flow with the 2D well. However, in Destiny Deoxys, it all sucked ass. Here is a prime example of how not to 3D animate your fantasy creatures. Also, many times throughout the movie, Deoxys literally looks like a low-res PNG being dragged across the screen. The whole movie just has an unappealing design. The 3D was ugly, the 2D barely had any effort put into it. The only time it looked okay was the battles. Destiny Deoxys also introduces Rayquaza for the first time in a Pokemon movie, and it's so uneventful. Officer Jenny, in the most zoned out voice, goes, "Hey, it's Rayquaza, lol." Like it's no fucking big deal. This is one of the coolest Pokemon invented. How did they make its movie debut feel like sipping an old open home brand cola? The plot was mediocre at best, trying to make you feel for this Tori kid by showing that he only opens up to one person. Actually, never mind that. He opens up to what is basically an imaginary friend. Yeah, that really makes me want to feel for the kid. Tori's fear of Pokemon was half interesting, but handled stupidly. His reason for being scared of Pokemon in the first place was stupid too, more down to the case of bad parenting. And Ash is at his peak retardedness. In fact, he's just an insensitive cunt in this movie. The plot was jumbled and messy, and then I lost care until the fight between Deoxys and Rayquaza. Even the ending of the battle was a letdown. For these reasons and many more, we've placed Destiny Deoxys dead last at number 21.
Number 20, Victini Zekrom, or Reshiram. Oh, Reshiram, or Zekrom, dragon of ancient legend that hasn't been seen in millions of years, won't you please help me? I promised I'd show Victini the ocean.
The ocean?
Fuck yeah, dude, I love the ocean, let's do this shit! This movie, or rather, these movies, were weird, which is actually the understatement of the century. They featured one good character, that being Victini, who didn't even have any dialogue. Everyone other than the main cast was pretty trash. I mean, Carlita was kinda cute, but I'm pretty sure she was just there to be cute. Awful pacing, with the conflict escalating very quickly, and also little to no understanding or concept of what was actually happening and why, thus making it very difficult to follow. Like, one moment, the world's Dragon Force energy is fucked up, and then 2 minutes later, Ash is about to suffocate as a flying temple leaves the atmosphere? Yeah, okay. That makes sense. Also, the villain wasn't even a villain. He was just really dumb. And not misguided dumb, just really dumb. Oh, my mom told me some weird shit when I was 5, and now I'm gonna dedicate my life to my own stupid misunderstanding of that one sentence she told me 20 years ago, and then learn what I was doing was wrong from some 10-year-old kid who jumps off too many things. And then he just turns good at the end, leaving us unsatisfied because he got no comeuppance for basically fucking up the entire planet. The only thing I liked about this movie was Victini. It was super cute, going around and stealing Ash's food while it was invisible and all that shit, and the idea that it sacrificed his power for that one old dude made me feel really sad for it. You know, how it got trapped and everything. And then at the end, the reveal of Victini being okay by catching a macaron out of thin air was good storytelling, since that was its quirk of sorts throughout the movie, so it was satisfying, I guess. But one solid character with no dialogue can't save this movie. It sucked. Number 19, Genesect and the Legend Awakened. My one-sentence review of this movie is that it was basically a 70-minute episode. It felt like it never really left the ground in terms of action, drama, or plot. I feel like they were trying to make us really care for the Genesect, and it just didn't work for me. Their limited speech ability only did so much to make me invested in them, and I really didn't need to hear that one Genesect say, "I want to go home," 87,000 times. But I did like that one particular Genesect as a character. It was the only one of them to really show weakness or vulnerability at any point, and you could tell that whenever the leader forced it to attack something, that it was very much against its will that it was doing so. But other than that, the red Genesect was basically just pissed because he woke up at a different time period and then just started shooting things. Then they made a web or something, just ugh. And then Ash and Company's role in this movie was rather minimal. They didn't really do anything of note other than try to protect the sad Genesect and say some nice and inspiring things every so often. And don't even get me started on Mewtwo in this movie. Its ability to Mega Evolve was never explained, its character was inconsistent, and the "I hate humans, but I'll learn by the end of the movie that not all humans are bad" angle is so played out. And then it's also got a female VO now for some reason. Anyway, this movie wasn't really bad per se, but it certainly wasn't good either. It was just kind of there.
Number 18, Pokemon Forever, Celebi, Voice of the Forest. Despite Celebi being an adorable little onion boy, the plot of this movie was a major downfall. It was slow-paced, but somehow never got to properly explore the budding friendship of Ash and Sam. More time was needed to build up them being friends. Instead it was rushed, and they became best buds quicker than you can say Sam is Professor Oak. Yeah, fuck you and your plot twists, Pokemon. Actually, in all seriousness, having Sam be a young Professor Oak lost in time contributes massively to his character, who up until this point was nothing but an old bloke creeping on Ash's mum. Now, Ash was best buds with the guy who grew up to perv on his mother.
Now that's fucked up.
Anyway, for what it was, I enjoyed the interaction of Sam and Ash, them being incredibly similar with their attitude towards Pokemon as well as their personalities. I just felt though the plot didn't do enough to make their friendship or any aspect of this story worthwhile. It was almost a wasted viewing experience aside from having the cute little onion boy and Sam be Professor Oak. Iron Mask Dan Green feels less of a threat and more of a pain in the ass, using dark balls to turn everything he catches evil. I mean, come on. Dark balls? Yeah, he's definitely evil, alright. And it turns Celebi evil as well. Briefly. And it makes a giant plant monster that kidnapped Jessie. And gets attacked by Suicune? What the fuck is even going on? The stop and start pacing, a villain not even worth giving a recognition to, and a pointless cameo from Suicune. That's basically Voice of the Forest. I do have to give them props though. Ash trying to feed a lifeless Celebi corpse traumatized me dearly as a kid. Wait, Why am I giving props to that?
Number 17, Jirachi Wishmaker. I don't think this movie was necessarily bad, but it certainly wasn't executed as well as it should have been. My primary issue with this movie is that the main focus is the relationship between Max and Jirachi, and we're supposed to feel really sad when the end of the movie comes and they have to separate. But I really don't feel like the relationship was emphasized enough. They should have had more bonding time, heart-to-heart kind of shit, but there wasn't enough of that. So by the time the end of the movie rolled around, I didn't really feel sad for anyone. At all. It just kind of felt overdramatic and over the top given what we'd seen throughout the movie. The movie itself gave me no real reason to invest in that relationship. So I feel like this movie overall could have been done much better had those two, who are supposed to be the main focus of this movie, gotten more time to really create a best friend kind of relationship there, instead of just using Jirachi's psychic abilities to rob a few people and eat candy. And because Max was the main focus, even though it didn't really work, the rest of the main cast were just kind of there. Also, May's daily wishing thing didn't really go anywhere, that just kind of existed for no reason. She forgot the last day, so that whole angle was pointless. One thing I will say is that I actually did like Butler. He had a decent backstory giving him clear motives, and his VO performance was pretty solid. Normally, I'd be more critical of something like a hentai Groudon, but I think it works in this instance. He's a delusional researcher obsessed with finding a way to create an artificial Groudon, so it kind of makes sense that when he finally manages to actually do something, it's this abomination of sorts that's not at all like Groudon. And the climax was kind of bizarre, with the guys literally just turning the rock capsule around to reverse the process. But the action building up to that big moment was pretty good. Anyway, this movie should have been better than it was. Also, did I mention that I don't even like Max that much? 'Cause I don't. Number 16, Hoopa and the Clash of Ages. Let's see, how do I sum up my main problem with this movie? Oh yeah.
Ashkan, you are human. Pecan, you are yellow. Ale, Hoopa Ring. Were you surprised?
Someone fucking shoot me.
But were you surprised though?
Developed. All it wants to do is eat donuts and prank people for no reason. Hoopa has an okay backstory with it getting overconfident in its power and using its abilities to summon legendary Pokemon to test its strength, but again, that's really just another instance of it being dumb. Not only does this take away from its character, but it also takes away from the drama of certain moments. If Ash is falling to his death and Hoopa yells, Ashkan! In his stupid fucking voice, it doesn't make me feel concerned for Ash's safety, it makes me want to cover my ears and die. And don't even get me started on this plot. Saying it's hard to follow is a pitiful understatement. The prison bottle, made to contain Hoopa's true power, is man-made, and we don't get an explanation for how it was created, and how it actually contains Hoopa's power, other than when they try to make another one, they use Braixen, Frogadier, and some random Hippopotamus moves to make it. So, all you have to do to contain Hoopa's power is throw some water, fire, and dirt together. Even I can do that. You know what? Fuck it. I'll do it. I'll do it right now. Where's my fucking prison bottle? Science, bitch. But then also, Hoopa's true power now has its own form, and it's very evil, and it's trying to take Hoopa's real body, even though it already has its own form, it has all of Hoopa's abilities, and is fully capable of doing whatever it wants? But no, that's not enough. The two different Hoopas both summon legendaries, and the ones evil Hoopa summons are also evil, because I guess the rings it uses are also evil, which makes the Pokemon turn evil by going through the rings? And then the legendaries good Hoopa summons listen to Ash for the reasons, which also includes a shiny Rayquaza, and then space and time are bent out of whack for no reason, and the climactic moment of Hoopa finally trying to break its curse was also ruined by its limited cognitive ability. What it said had absolutely no relation to what was supposedly keeping Hoopa from breaking its curse. It was supposed to understand why it couldn't be allowed to travel through its own rings, and then it said something about staying with everyone and got through the ring. Sure, okay, I guess. Oh hey, it's Arceus. Oh yeah, I'd like to personally address the people who wrote this movie and ask them, what the flying fuck were you guys tripping on, and where can I fucking get some? Now, you may be thinking, Gus, you said some horrible shit about this movie. Why is it ranked higher than the others? Well, dear viewer, this movie is saved by the magnitude of the circumstances, the amazing action, and the slick animation. It really feels like something huge is going down in this movie, even if the reason why it's happening is nowhere to be found. Though the collection of legendaries is super cool to see, it's almost too much and makes no sense. But it does lead to some great action.
It's Lugia!
Yep, that's me. I'm Lugia. I guess I'm here now. Who wants to throw the fuck down? The animation in this movie is crazy good too. The main XY series had some fantastic animation, so it's no surprise that the movies stepped it up a notch. I will also say that I did like Baraz and Mirai. They had a decent backstory and they didn't butt in where they weren't welcome. And they did their jobs well. Pokemon movie side characters are oftentimes hit or miss, and I feel like these two worked pretty well. I also enjoyed seeing Ash very clearly take the lead in this movie, helping Hoopa with what little development he got, though that does take away focus from the others. In fact, in this movie in particular, Serena, Clement, and Bonnie really felt tossed to the side. Essentially, this movie was a promotion for Oras, and that was it. Which is sad. The plot of this movie is undoubtedly a result of a massive acid trip, and everything surrounding the hypnotizing action goes unexplained or makes no sense. Although I think it's fair to point out, like the 3 movies prior to it, this one only had a runtime of about 70 minutes, which is way too short. So maybe it could have been improved if it had gotten 20 more minutes? Probably not. Number 15, Diancie and the Cocoon of Destruction.
Wow, Mega Evolution is so cool! My Hawlucha's dead!
Can I get a waifu alert on Astrid? God damn, what a fucking cutie pie. You remember how I said the 3 movies before Hoopa all ran for about 70 minutes? Well, here's another one, and the one that really took a hit from being so short. This is another movie that should have been way better than it was. I feel like it really did have a lot of potential. There was absolutely some substance to the plot and characters here, but it feels like it should have been given more time to build certain things and explain others. And this issue mostly seems to be down to its time constraints. Why was this movie so short? It really feels like I didn't have enough time to digest the plot or what was actually going on. It was kinda confusing. The pacing was way too fast and the story suffered as a result. For example, I feel like the importance of the Heart Diamond and Diancie's ability to create one wasn't emphasized enough. The old man Carbink at the beginning saw Diancie couldn't make a Heart Diamond and basically said, "Get the fuck out and go figure out how to make one," with 0 clues on how to actually do that. Basically, Diancie was forced to leave for the sole reason that she would stumble into meeting Ash and company. Also, they teased Yveltal pretty well, saying it's the bringer of destruction and its handiwork can only be reversed by Xerneas, but its actual introduction into the movie was weird and made no sense. So they stepped in a pool of water a couple times and now Yveltal is mad? And then it just starts turning shit to stone because it's angry and because it can. I mean, the old man Carbink talked about Yveltal's judgment of fury, but this was still odd. Like, why did Pikachu get turned to stone if he was only gonna be stone for all of 2 seconds before Xerneas came in and undid everything? It just felt like kinda pointless drama. It just made everyone sad for a couple seconds and then everything was normal again. There was no real consequence to that at all. Now, about the shit I did like. For one, the relationship between Diancie and Ash and company actually felt real, even with the limited time. They put more of their time into building that relationship, and it actually paid off. Imagine that. Simple things like the bus and boat rides and the shopping scene helped build that relationship. It showed us Diancie and the main cast were bonding and creating a real friendship. So that was nice. I also didn't mind the villains. They were kind of boring, and they weren't really characters, they just wanted Diancie so they could get rich or whatever, but they were relentless in their pursuit, which I don't feel like we see enough of in these movies. Milesteel and her dad were also pretty good. I thought it was actually really clever that they pretended to be good until they knew Diancie could make real diamonds. It made them look really scheming and like proper dickheads. But then Yveltal came in and just made them all look like tools anyway. Another thing I liked was the storytelling element of how Diancie created a real diamond during the boat ride, due to her being inspired by making some new friends and learning about friendship or whatever the fuck. And that ended up being the first real diamond she'd made. And it was also revealed at the end that it contained her Megastone, and that allowed her to Mega Evolve during the climax, even though there was no Keystone. I still liked it regardless. It was cheesy, sure, but that doesn't mean it wasn't good storytelling. And needless to say, the animation and look of the movie were incredible. Overall, the message of friendship this movie conveys is very heartwarming, and I really enjoyed the interactions between the main cast and Diancie. But Diancie's development just didn't feel as complete or rounded out as it should have. This one just really should have been 20 minutes longer.
Number 14, Giratina and the Sky Warrior. Now, I do think Giratina and the Sky Warrior is underrated somewhat. It's very fast-paced in the beginning and gives the audience a lot to grasp. It's a great start to get you interested in what's going to happen with Zero, Giratina, and this little plant thing that got tossed around. Giratina being angry and rage-filled thanks to the events from Rise of Darkrai makes sense. Giratina is set up as a dominant threat, a Pokemon who could fuck your shit up if he really wanted to. The story of Newton and Zero was a unique one. Protege and student learning together about the reverse world and how it affects their world. Things progress rather well with the plot, and the desires of Zero are simple, yet he's a better one-dimensional villain than Iron Mask whoever the fuck. I think one thing everyone can agree on is Shaman is goddamn irritating. It's strange because there's a unique take on a mythical Pokemon, one that's smug and bratish. But Shaman is just so unlikable in the first half of the movie. Shaman's banter with the gang can be funny at moments, but Shaman is just so unlikable that you're happy when he leaves in the end. Even though the movie tries to act like, oh, Shaman loved hanging out with the gang, it's sad he's gonna leave now. Also, I'd like to point out the fact that Ash is a little bitch. Throughout the whole movie, Ash and Shaman talk down to each other, and Dawn is given the spotlight to be understanding and caring towards Shaman. Ash and Shaman team up at the very end to help take down Zero, but when it's all said and done and Shaman has to leave, Ash starts tearing up like a 5-year-old losing his favourite toy. It made no sense, because Ash and Shaman's relationship up until this point was like two brothers arguing with each other just because they can. It would have made 10 times more sense for Dawn to shed a tear, losing a Pokemon she genuinely cared about, and for Ash to comfort her, instead of Ash being a little pussy, crying over a Pokemon who he hated for a good portion of the movie. So yeah, Giratina and the Sky Warrior. Decent movie, nice progression in the Sinnoh movie trilogy, but not amazing. No. Fuck off, Shaman. Number 13. I Choose You. I Choose You was an interesting retelling of Ash's roots, starting off back in Pallet Town with Ash choosing his starter Pokemon and allowing new fans of the series to understand Ash's story and motivations. It made sense of it being the 20th movie anniversary, so it was a nice spot to reset the movies. However, because of this, avid fans of the Pokemon television series never got to see the Sun and Moon cast on the big screen, which is unfortunate. That cast was really unique and well balanced. It would have been amazing to see a Sun and Moon movie, but oh well. The movie itself looks amazing. Definitely got that proper anime movie vibe all previous Pokemon movies lacked. The battle between Ho-Oh and Ash looked awesome, and was a payoff for the first episode of the anime, finally showing us Ho-Oh in all its glory. Although it was inconclusive. Fuck's sakes. This movie is placed fairly high on the list purely for the nostalgia spike it gives you. As well, all the voice actors being on point with their performances, and Ash is a decent character this time around. Now, the many downfalls. All the characters introduced were neat, but overall pointless. Ash claims they will meet again in the end, which, so far they haven't. I might be proven wrong in the future, but I doubt it. We're also treated to some definitely not at all scarring images of Cross being bitten in the arm badly by his Pokemon and a Luxray freezing to death. For no reason! Isn't that lovely? And for the love of fuck, what was the deal with all these new rainbow items? The Rainbow Wing has been an item in the game since Gold and Silver, but in this movie, all of a sudden, there's a Rainbow Rock, Rainbow Flower, Rainbow Wing, Rainbow Bridge, Rainbow Underwear, Rainbow. Just what in the absolute rainbow arse? Ash being the Rainbow Hero was, what? Another reason to make us think Ash is special? We know this. I'm sure the kids who never saw a Pokemon movie before knew this as well. He's the main character. He's special. He's buddies with the fucking mascot. He must be unique. But no. Now Ash is the chosen one, a king of the sea, a master of aura, an ageless demigod who can tame and ride any legendary Pokemon he desires. Jesus Christ, we don't need more of this. If the movie was just a straight up retelling of the first season without a bullshit plot of being the Rainbow Hero and Marshadow being an evil cunt, even though apparently he's meant to restore balance to the Rainbow Rock. Yeah, Marshall's involvement in this movie didn't make much sense. At all. For what it was, I Choose You was an interesting story with nice moments for each of Ash's forgettable friends, but not really an interesting enough movie to rewatch or make Ash stand out in any new way. Newer fans may enjoy it, nostalgic fans might enjoy it, but from what I've seen online, hardcore fans were livid with its changes. This makes sense though. Pokemon decided to mess with that original story that enticed and made kids in the 90s fall in love with the series. Not only that, but the first episode of the original anime has more impact and emotion than all of this movie. This movie is nice for new audiences, but frustrating for old audiences. Also, Pikachu spoke. Yeah, didn't you see this in the news? He said actual words other than Pika Pika, and everyone was so fucking confused and weirded out that it was the main takeaway when this movie was in cinemas. So, Pokemon, I choose you. I choose not to remember Pikachu spoke. Ever. Number 12. Pokemon the Movie 2000. The Power of One. I thought The Power of One was a pretty iconic movie, on par with Mewtwo Strikes Back as a unique Pokemon movie with a fairly decent plot. The pacing of the movie was great, allowing each moment to breathe and establish important scenes as they occurred. The opening monologue of the villain saying out loud the prophecy of the legendary birds sets up the story in motion perfectly. Although I dissed Ash for being a special motherfucker with endless accolades before, I thought it was clever how Ash was implemented as the chosen one, with the poem referencing, "Thus the earth shall turn to ash." Clearly it can be taken in two ways. Either the earth will literally crumble and turn to ashes, or the world will turn its trust and rely on Ash himself. Ash finding out he's the chosen one, hesitating for a bit, then stepping up to the plate was a good character defining moment for him, realizing the world's at risk here and he has to do something to help. Lugia's song is an iconic piece of music. Any classic fan of the series will instantly recognize it if they grew up with it. Indeed, all of the soundtrack was special. Lugia itself was an amazing legendary to have be the centerpiece of the movie, the one who keeps the balance between the legendary birds and stands out as an amazing Pokemon every kid wanted in their games. It was a memorable movie, fueling every adult's nostalgia boner. With all that said, the movie had its fair share of negatives. Let me make a little handy list for you. The villain is a fucking idiot, literally capturing people trying to stop him and letting them roam free in his ship with the captured legendary Pokemon. Then he leaves. Fucking moron. No one likes Tracy. They shipped Ash and Misty, but it never went anywhere. Melody made fun of them hard. Misty got jealous, and at the end, she says that Ash literally has her beside him. Bloody hell. Meowth can understand and translate electric Pokemon shocking each other into English. It wasn't a stretch of the imagination for Meowth to translate Pokemon speaking into English, but Zapdos and Pikachu were shocking each other with electric attacks to communicate. No one wanted Tracy in this movie. Oak explaining how the fire, ice, and electric islands keep balance to the weather makes no goddamn sense. We knew the weather and all the Pokemon were getting messed up, but him explaining it made no sense to me as a kid or an adult. The villain is set up to return in the future, but 20 years on, he hasn't. Lugia is a shit Uber driver. Zapdos, Moltres, and Articuno are literally 3 siblings wanting the others to leave their rooms. Everyone hates Tracy. Despite all of this, ignoring its flaws, The Power of One is a good Pokemon movie. Another hit from its era and a fantastic follow-up to Mewtwo Strikes Back. If the writing was a bit better, I could definitely see The Power of One higher on this list.
Number 11, The Rise of Darkrai. Saying this movie confuses me is an understatement. I often criticize these movies for not explaining shit, but here, if they wanted to go through with this plot, I almost feel like it would have been better off had this dude not tried to explain just about every single goddamn thing that happened. They were absolutely playing with fire when they tried to incorporate the space-time continuum into this movie. It certainly could have been handled worse than it was, but they should have just left some of the weird shit that happened to being like, oh, Dialga and Palkia's battle is fucking everything up. Tonio spits out a fuck ton of bullshit to try to explain some of the shit that happens in this movie, which really just made it more confusing. But now onto the good stuff. The storytelling and lore in this movie are great. I like the backstory of Darkrai meeting Alice's grandmother and opening his heart to her, and now opening his heart to Alice and becoming motivated when she needs his help, because she reminds him of Alicia. Godey's diary foretelling the events of this movie is also pretty interesting, though maybe it should have been referenced more than it was. It didn't really feel all that important in the end. Also, I feel like the importance of the Erasion song could have been emphasized a little more. Although, having Alice played at the beginning to calm down the Pokemon that are arguing, and then having it used at the climax to calm down Dialga and Palkia is good storytelling. I also really appreciate the gravitas and magnitude of the circumstances here. It really feels like something big, meaningful, and dangerous is happening right in front of us. Ash and Dawn sprint to the top of the tower, and their scramble to get the music machine to work really feels like a life or death kind of thing. Like there's actually something at stake. I like that they're pretty much responsible for saving the town. Not only that, but it really does feel like a team effort, with them and their Pokemon climbing up the disappearing stairs and then working together to get the machine started. I like that. Darkrai is a decent character. Again, his speech is rather limited, but I do kind of like that he comes off as evil at first, but he's really just trying to defend the garden he loves so much. After seeing his backstory, his motives become clear and it's easier to invest in the character. His sacrifice towards the end actually works pretty well, too. He doesn't have much development, though. His entire character arc is just when he says, "This garden is for everyone," dies, and then stands on top of a building like fucking Batman or something. The only thing that really changed there was the perception of Darkrai, not the character itself. Also, Baron Alberto executes his role very well, as that delusional, charismatic guy that convinces everyone of the wrong thing, and then looks like a moron by the end of the movie. And it's satisfying to see him look stupid. Alice and Tonio were okay. I didn't really care for either of them, but they both did their jobs just fine. They didn't take away from the story, and it did feel like their involvement was necessary and added to the story and drama. Overall, what was actually going on in this movie was clear, but it wasn't thought out nearly enough to make sense, leaving us feeling lost quite a lot while watching. But it had decent characters and good lore and storytelling. Pretty solid. Number 10, Kyurem versus the Sword of Justice. Almost like the opposite of the previous entry, this movie's strength is its simplicity. This movie had very simple pacing, making it easy to follow, albeit fairly predictable. It's simply the story of Keldeo learning to overcome his self-doubt by learning true friendship and fighting for that friendship. Yes, that is certainly an overdone trope in Pokemon, but it's still a nice message. Keldeo's relationship with Ash, and even Iris and Silent to a lesser degree, feels real thanks to all the time they put into building that relationship throughout the movie. The heart-to-heart moments they have are really nice. And not only that, Keldeo comes off as a pretty relatable character, battling his own self-doubt and eventually overcoming it thanks to that friendship he made with the main cast. I also think this is one of the few movies where it actually feels like Ash's companions did something, which I appreciate, especially since it was Iris and Silent of all people. Another thing I liked was that throughout the movie, the protagonists are constantly on the run from the Cryogonal and Kyurem. It gave it a unique feel compared to most of the other movies. Kyurem couldn't even give two shits about being a legendary and just came right into the city they were in and started wrecking shit, which I loved. Although, speaking of Kyurem, while I did like him throughout most of the movie, the fact that he was so persistent in his pursuit of Keldeo and then was just like, "Oh wow, you protect your friends," at the end kinda made him look like a dope. So we're left with one of two conclusions. One, Kyurem took his test for Keldeo way too far by chasing him so relentlessly and was just waiting for him to protect his friends and wasn't really expected to win the battle with Kyurem at all. Or two, he had the quickest and weirdest change of heart ever. Don't get me wrong, that was a heartwarming moment, and the ending was very satisfying, with the four swords of justice all reciting the motto, but Kyurem's motives as the antagonist elude me. Overall, this movie told a very simple and easy to follow story. It had solid character work and decent writing, and was just generally a fun experience. It didn't try to be anything other than exactly what it was. The writers knew exactly what they wanted to accomplish in this movie, and they did it very well. Keldeo's redemption story is fun and compelling to watch. And while it is certainly an overdone type of storyline, it was still executed very well with some great animation and battles, and even the character development for Keldeo was great. The Swords of Justice themselves were decent characters too. I really enjoyed this movie, you know? Also, I'm pretty sure that's just a dildo on Keldeo's head.
Number 9. Pokemon 3, Spell of the Unknown. Being the third ever Pokemon movie, Spell of the Unknown had a lot to live up to at the time of release. I had never seen it before we made this list, so coming into it I didn't know what to expect. I was pleasantly surprised at the plot. The idea that the Unknown just make whatever Molly wishes into reality is so fascinating. just like a little girl having all the power in the world without realizing it. Although not a world-ending situation like the movies prior to it, I found myself enticed by the story. With many Pokemon movie plots, a villain is established in order to move the plot forward and cause events to occur. As the story moves along, half the time, the villain is later redeemed so they can assist Ash and the gang and later apologize for their misguided ways. This is a trope in Pokemon movies I heavily dislike. However, in Spell of the Unknown, the antagonist is literally a child. You can't hate her. She's not even an antagonist. It's a special situation in which the gang have to calm down this child because she doesn't realize half of what's going on. Then following on from that, Dan Green Entei being created from Molly's wish for her father to return is such an interesting plot point. Then having Dan Green Entei's power be entirely driven by Molly's wishes just adds to the story of Molly's imagination being the source of everything occurring. The characters are decently written, what with Molly having the perfect personality as a kid who just wants their parents back and is enamored by Pokemon. Ash is dumbed down to simply trying to rescue his mother, but it's well done. He's not an idiot. He and the gang have to think tactically about approaching someone who literally has the power of their imagination. Brock is surprisingly smart. Knowing Molly is a child, he's able to entice her into a Pokemon battle to keep her distracted and let the gang advance. Ash's mum gets her own highlight moments, being able to help calm down Molly near the end and being relevant. Dan Green Entei may just be Molly's ideal father, but Dan Green is able to deliver his lines with such expertise that it makes you believe Entei will destroy everything in its path. Equally as the plot is unique, the plot is also its downfall. All in all, it's a rescue mission for Ash and the gang. The reason the unknown kidnapped Molly's legit dad and then decided to grant all of her wishes made little sense. I don't know what compelled them to do so. There was that opening scene with Molly playing with letters and something along that, I don't know. I admit though, not everything needs to be explained. This is peak fantasy within Pokemon. Literally use your imagination and create a giant crystal forest with an Entei voiced by Dan Green as your father. Fuck it, why not? Number 8. Pokemon the first movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back. The OG, the first, the one and only Mewtwo Strikes Back. Not only was this movie the original Pokemon movie, it was also an incredibly dark entry for the Pokemon franchise. Imagine, in the late 90s, you're a parent whose child is enamored with this Pokemon cartoon and the video games you bought them for their birthday. They run up to you saying there's a Pokemon movie coming out and they badly want to see it. You decide, heck, why not? It's a kids movie. It might be fun for them. You take your child to see the movie. It opens. Within the first minute, it makes you question life itself. Then it introduces Mewtwo, a genetically engineered Pokemon who's brooding, angry, frustrated at being an experiment, who kills the scientists that worked on it. Not even 10 minutes have passed, and you're questioning Pokemon's child-friendly rating, and your child is frightened by this purple alien creature setting fire to everything. The movie progresses. There's some funny jokes about the Minnesota Vikings, and your child loves seeing all their Pokemon on the big screen. Maybe this movie won't mentally scar my child, you think. Then, towards the ending, the final battle occurs. The boy whose name you thought was Charcoal runs between two attacks and is turned to stone. The yellow mouse thing gets upset. Everyone stops fighting. All the Pokemon start crying. Your child's crying. You're crying. What the fuck is going on? Then he gets revived by the power of tears, friendship, and all this other shit. As mentioned before, longtime fans of Pokemon can agree that this is probably the darkest entry into the series to date. Teasing killing off the main character, having blood on Mewtwo's hands from the very beginning, sprinkling in some life lessons, and literally having a quote that says, "It doesn't matter what's different in people, it's what's the same that matters." Questioning life as a whole? That's some whack shit, yo. And I thought I was here for some child-friendly fun antics, but nah fam, I'm now having an existential crisis. However, it left an impact. A real impact. Being the first Pokemon movie, a franchise who at this time was only starting to gain notoriety for the addicting games, needing to do something big to capture every child's attention and get them further hooked onto enslaving pocket monsters. Introducing potentially the strongest Pokemon created as the antagonist is one mighty fine way to get kids enticed, especially when they figure out they can capture Mewtwo in Red and Blue. And you look at Pokemon today, the biggest video game franchise in existence. Then you think back to its roots. Where did it all start? It started with Pokemon Red, Blue and Yellow, the original anime series, and Mewtwo Strikes Back in cinemas. It blew up, created something special to capture the hearts and imaginations of children and adults all over the world. All this being said, it is nowhere near perfect. The plot is fairly mundane and simple, the animation doesn't really age well, Mewtwo's change of heart at the end is like a flick of a switch, and the voice acting was really hit or miss with certain characters. I love this movie, I really do, but I couldn't put it in my top 5. Especially not since Gus and I both agree that more impressive Pokemon movies have been produced since. However, we agreed because of Mewtwo Strikes Back being the original movie. The first, the one to help kick off this franchise we know and love today. It has earned this place high up on this list. Also, can we just agree that Mew is the cutest Pokemon ever created and leave it at that? Thanks. Number 7. Pokemon Heroes, Latios and Latias. It was action-packed, dramatic, and fun. Everything you want in a Pokemon movie. The story of Pokemon Heroes follows a very traditional structural formula that creates a fun experience that gets you invested in the characters and takes you on an emotional journey. For one, the intro presents everything you need to know about the legend of Ultimar, and it barely has any narration. Unlike with some Pokemon movies, there isn't an overflow of new characters introduced for this one. Every new character is interesting and relevant to the story, especially Latias, who is perhaps one of the most compelling characters in any Pokemon movie, and she has no dialogue. Ash manages to make friends with a girl, but eventually he learns that it's a Latias disguising herself as an actual real girl, Bianca. It makes sense why she would do this in the context of her character and the story, considering Bianca's pretty much Latias' only human friend up until this point, and her hairstyle somewhat resembles the design of the Eon duo. The movie proceeds to take you on a journey of developing a really nice relationship between Ash and Latias, while also displaying the amazing dynamic between the brother and sister of Latios and Latias. Again, no dialogue is used. However, they display a fantastic relationship of an older brother looking out for his younger sister. Then, the legend spoke about throughout the movie goes on to repeat itself at the end, with Latios sacrificing himself to become the new Soldier for the town and its people. This is one of the most tear-jerking moments in any of these movies. Latias sight-sharing with Latios in his final moments, with everyone realizing what's happening and how there's nothing they can do to stop it. It's heartbreaking, yet a great ending nonetheless. Now, a few criticisms with this movie. For one, the villains, Annie and Oakley. They were just kind of meh. I mean, Gus and I are the last ones to complain about some attractive lady thieves being the antagonists. Their introduction was interesting, but throughout the movie, something felt off. Like, they captured Latios, they were intimidating as hell, but there was a lack of motive until one of them goes cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, saying she can take over the world from inside that machine. I feel like Annie and Oakley were interesting in concept, but lacked overall. Oh, and yeah, that machine, for some reason, requires the Soldier to power it, which is not really explained. I mean, Lorenzo gave some exposition on Ultimar and the machine early on, but how the Soldier was relevant to it didn't really make much sense. The soul of a Latios or a Latias powers this big fuck-off machine which can revive dead Pokemon and can lock down the entirety of Ultimar? I mean, can someone spell out Deus Ex Machina for me? Another criticism is the execution of the final conflict. It mostly just happened and flopped about for a while like a Magikarp out of water. Then before you can throw it back into the water, Latios is fucking dead. Well, okay then! Not necessarily a bad ending, just a bit anticlimactic and lacking of substance. Overall, this movie is probably one of the most balanced movies to date, one of the few that actually felt fun for the whole family. This is a perfect answer to the question, name a good Pokemon movie. It has a wonderful story, the music is great, voice acting was solid, and the look and animation of the movie were great too. A fairly predictable sequence of events turned into a fun, entertaining, and emotional experience. Number 6. Arceus and the Jewel of Life. Since Mewtwo Strikes Back, I found it difficult to see any antagonist as a real threat. Mewtwo was the epitome of evil Pokemon villain. The only other antagonist I've seen as one to rival Mewtwo is Arceus. Because you have to realize, without Dialga sending Ash and the gang back in time to change the past, Arceus literally would have just ended the world then and there. This movie was an entertaining standalone, but a fantastic ending to the Sinnoh trilogy, referencing moments and allowing things like the rivalry between Giratina and Dialga to continue. Although the side characters of Sheena and... wait. Kevin. Gus.
Yeah?
This guy, his name, it's Kevin.
Hello, I'm a guardian of the ruins where the deity who created our world was last seen. My name is, Kevin. Fucking Kevin! Really? Kevin?
Anyway, Sheena and Kevin are introduced in this story, and despite Sheena's power being way too strong, it works well with the story. The plot is intriguing, Arceus' return has never really been alluded to previously, but in a mere few minutes, Sheena is able to explain the history of Arceus and make us invested. Then, boom! Arceus, a majestic-looking motherfucker, comes along and starts destroying everything. He takes out Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina, the three legendaries who have been built up as some of the strongest in the previous movies, literally tearing space and time apart. Arceus is essentially Thanos beating up Hulk in under a minute, just destroying the masters of time, space, and the reverse world. Going back in time thanks to Dialga added a whole new element to the story. Although Ash and the gang contributed in the end, most of the movie didn't focus on them. Pikachu and Piplup had their own nice moments with Pichu, Sheena got to fuck up giving Arceus the Jewel of Life twice, the legit baddie Marcus is hinted at being the villain, but it's very easy to miss. Every character has some level of depth to them, and I was thoroughly impressed with the handling of the story, helping Arceus see the light. Even though Ash was the one to return the Jewel of Life, without Deimos, everyone would have been lost in time, gone forever. The stakes were real. The story, to me, was phenomenal. Also, I need to say, the voice acting all around is fantastic in this movie. Ash, Dawn, and Brock sound great and didn't have any silly lines. Arceus is so goddamn intimidating, which has to be a compliment to his voice actor. Dan Green is back again, motherfuckers! Although Dan Green has a very distinct voice, he gives so much life and personality to whoever he plays, in this case, Deimos. Sheena and even Kevin's actors sound great as well. No faults with any of the voice actors or the characters. Well, except maybe Kevin. What the fuck was the point of Kevin? Even the old guy guarding Ash and the gang's cell had more depth than fucking Kevin. Now, any faults with this movie? Well, a few minor ones. Sheena and Kevin apparently witnessed the events in Rise of Darkrai and Giratina and the Sky Warrior. I wish this was actually shown in those movies, like they're in the background mixed with the crowds during certain scenes or something. That would have kept the continuity going 10 times better than just saying, "Yo, we saw what happened, Lamau." Arceus appearing directly after Sheena and Kevin explaining Arceus' backstory was just a bit of a coincidence for me. Oh, also, Sheena takes interest in Ash and Pikachu because, like her ancestor Dan Green Deimos, is a master with a thunder creature. But that plot point goes nowhere. It's never brought up again. It's just another accolade for Ash, I guess. But yeah, these are all just minor faults. Nothing that takes away from the overall experience of the movie. Arceus and the Jewel of Life. A great movie, highly recommend.
Number 5, Pokemon Ranger and the Temple of the Sea. Rarely has someone of the main cast other than Ash been the focus of one of these movies. In fact, I think it's only happened twice, and you saw how well the last one went. So now, let's talk about the one they did right. May finally gets a chance to shine in this movie, and it is wonderful. Her relationship with Manaphy throughout the movie as its mother figure is some of the most pure, genuine, and compelling character work in anything in the entire Pokemon franchise. You heard me. That relationship really felt special, and come the end of the movie when Manaphy had to leave, I almost teared up. That ending was bittersweet, and I really love May's last line. When she's asked if she's okay, she says, "No, but I will be." I think that's really applicable to real life too, because while you may feel sad some days for whatever reason, you can recover and be a better person the next day. The concept of Pokemon Rangers is dope as shit. Jack, on the other hand, is a pretty generic character. He's pretty much an old-fashioned do-gooder who does a few cool tricks and has a capture styler. I didn't really dislike him, but he didn't really stand out in any way either. Phantom is also a pretty decent villain, although he can definitely come off as obnoxious. I appreciated that, unlike some other villains, he had a get out there and fuck shit up attitude, and was actually capable of doing quite a lot on his own, even without his team of pirates. This is shown later on in the movie, highlighting his selfishness when he goes into the Seat Temple on his own to steal the Sea Crown. The water performers were fine too. They served their purpose well and didn't intrude on the main plot where they weren't welcome. Manaphy as a character gets a pass considering it was practically a newborn child. You can't really expect an actual baby to develop much of a character other than an attachment to its parents, which it had. This movie had incredible pacing, the story and dialogue writing were excellent, and it had some genuinely amazing character work, especially for someone other than Ash. It also had some amazing moments, namely the one where Ash sticks May, Manaphy, and Pikachu in the capsule and heroically goes off to put the missing crystal back into the Sea Crown thingy. That is such a good character moment for Ash. The way that Manaphy uses Heart Swap to bring May and Pikachu's voices to Ash, allowing him to recover from his almost drowned state and put the last crystal back in, is actually really heartwarming. Although one thing that did bother me was the Deus Ex Machina they called being King of the Sea. You know, when Ash comes out of the ocean and starts flying and shit. That was weird. But pretty much the entire movie leading up to that point was excellent. This movie shot straight up into the top 5 for me solely because of May's character development in this movie. I never knew May becoming a mother to a cute little blue blob could be so compelling and beautiful. Number 4, Volcanion and the Mechanical Marvel. Holy shit! I found Volcanion! Oh Christ! Immediately, the steampunk ancient technology vibes that this movie practically spits in your face are much appreciated, and very different from any other Pokemon movie. This movie features some really solid characters. Volcanion's selflessness towards Pokemon is evident from very early on, and he even made me enjoy the super played out "I hate humans but come around by the end of the movie" angle, which is a miracle in itself. His interactions and banter with Ash are, for the most part, genuinely entertaining and build off that relationship in a way that fits both of their characters. He definitely came off as obnoxious a couple times, but so did Ash, and that's par for the course. Also, Magearna has a solid origin story, and despite being dialogueless, still manages to come across as a genuine sweetheart that you want to protect like your baby sister. The antagonist, Alva, was actually pretty decent too. He's a simple, easy-to-hate asshole. He tricked this kid Raleigh into thinking being on his side was the right thing, thus saving Alva from being investigated due to Raleigh's high status. And his heartlessness is portrayed very well, such as when he tries to fire at Volcanion's homeland. And this is portrayed not just by his character work, but also by his VO as well. On that note, Meowth's performance, in particular in this movie, was excellent. When Magearna's soul heart is being used by Alva and drained of its power, Meowth's genuine emotion pushed that scene over the edge. Raleigh was meh. He was just kind of there as Alva's puppet. His realization came at the right time, and he was decent from there, but there wasn't enough focus put on him for me to really care about him too much. It felt like they wanted us to care about him, but I couldn't bring myself to. Kimia was fine, but she didn't really have a lot of development or even much of a character. She was just Raleigh's big sister, who also had a dope-ass shiny Mega Gardevoir. And she flew the plane, which helped, I guess. Again, it felt like the main cast other than Ash were thrown to the side a bit, but that doesn't mean they didn't have their moments. Clement oogling over the arcane technology was entertaining, the girls bonding with Magearna was nice to see, and Serena fixed Ash's clothes for him. Aww. This movie had wonderful pacing, making it very easy to digest, follow, and understand. It had fantastic animation, awesome action, everything you could want. The concept of the Mega Wave was unique and interesting, Team Rocket's heavier involvement was welcome, with them even feeling like a threat at one point, and also, Ash dresses up like he's headed to the Constitutional Convention. Didn't know you were into that, Serena. What else do you want? A shiny Mega Gengar? Hey look, it's Ash Greninja! And the ending is very heartwarming too, wrapping Volcanion's development in a very nice little bow. He tells Pikachu to keep Ash from getting into trouble. All that arguing and relationship development paid off. Isn't that sweet?
Number 3. Lucario and the Mystery of Mew. Lucario and the Mystery of Mew released directly after Destiny Deoxys. That was a huge leap, going from trash to monumentally good. Lucario's backstory is set up similarly to Arceus's. We see things from his point of view, and how he believes Sir Aaron portrayed him in the kingdom. Exploring the concept of aura in this movie was really fascinating to me. Having Lucario be blinded in the beginning to allow us to see Ash's aura be similar to Sir Aaron's is a really good piece of storytelling. Aura isn't used as this overpower ex machina in the movie. It gives Lucario a slight advantage in allowing him to see great distances, as well as to save the Tree of Beginning, but in reality, it's not overpowered like Sheena being able to calm down and call for the assistance of legendary Pokemon. Lucario really is the driving force of this movie. He's badass, intimidating, and his voice actor did a phenomenal job for him. The plot in general was really well developed. Not entirely fast-paced, it gave every scene time to breathe and acknowledge its importance to the overall plot. Every scene fit, every scene mattered. The backstory showed us Lucario's point of view and made us, the audience, question Sir Aaron. The opening tournament allowed us to see not only some great battles, but give more personality to this newly introduced town and royal family type figures. Having Kid Summers be amazing at everything would have given young girls a fairly decent role model, and she played her part as a badass spy and explorer very well. Even though she's one of the main reasons the tree devours everyone, but still! The gang all have great chemistry with each other and everyone else. Even Max isn't completely unlikable. The whole concept of the Tree of Beginning is explained well at the start. Even though the inner workings of the tree is somewhat confusing, it's made up for by Mew's role in this movie. Mew gets to shine once more, still being the cute pacifist with all the power in the world, but just wants a couple of friends to play with. The Reggie trio, even though they're literally roadblocks for the gang, are intimidating as hell. Then, of course, the plot twist of Sir Aaron was so well done and well executed, not revealing to the very end that he never betrayed the kingdom and Lucario. And Lucario gets to see this for himself, even though him seeing this came courtesy of a Deus Ex Time Flowers, but I digress. The emotional impact at the very end, with Lucario shoving Ash out of the way to sacrifice himself, tearing up when learning of Sir Aaron doing the same, then Lucario appearing on the painting beside Sir Aaron, and then meeting again in the afterlife is some deep shit. Something I'll never be able to get over. It was a great ending arc for Lucario, returning, overcoming his distrust, and sacrificing himself. Even Ash's somewhat cheesy line of "his aura is with me" hits home. Lucario and the Mystery of Mew is a well-written movie with great animation and enough emotional moments to give you some serious feels. I feel as if it's worthy of its place on this list.
Number 2, Zoroark, Master of Illusions. As far as Pokemon stories go, this is about as good as it gets. Everything about this movie's storytelling and character work was brilliant. First of all, Zorua is actually a great character. He has the similarities to Shaman, those being he's pretty overconfident and smug, but he's also willing to accept Ash and company's help with finding Zoroark, and understands that sometimes he has to depend on his friends for help. He's basically a small child just looking for his mom, and that in itself makes him pretty relatable. Zoroark might be the most badass female in all of Pokemon. The way she relentlessly faces anything in her way while she's searching for Zorua is great character work, and she's even relatable as a mother figure, like when she's forced to listen to Kodai when she thinks Zorua is their hostage. Even when she's doing shit against her will, she looks badass. Zorua and Zoroark's reunion at the end is so sweet and heartwarming. The other side characters are mostly kinda there. But I did like Rowena as the spy investigating Kodai's work. She was cool. It's actually laughable how easily Kodai takes home the trophy for best Pokemon movie antagonist. He's eons better than any other villain in these movies. His backstory with the Time Ripple makes him look absolutely heartless, and the way he manages to find success makes perfect sense. And how he lies through his teeth on the news and the whole town just believes him is so accurate to modern society, it's scary. His relentless search for the Time Ripple and increasing desperation throughout the movie is done so well, and the satisfaction you get at the end when you see him finally taken down and about to be taken to justice is just, delightful. We even get to see how he uses the news to make it seem like shit is getting destroyed, even though it actually isn't, and that allows us to piece together that Kodai is a lying bitch as the movie goes on. It's always nice when movies give us clues to piece the plot together on our own without having to let the protagonists do it for us. Celebi's involvement in this movie is great to see, and makes sense given the nature, get it? Nature? of the plot here, that being Kodai's fucking with the time ripple destroys all the greenery in Crown City. Everything to do with the time ripple generally makes sense. Literally the only thing I could think of that goes unexplained is Kodai's illusion breaking bracelet, which is such a small thing that I couldn't even bring myself to hold it against the movie. Zoro's character progression throughout the movie is wonderful, and Ash and the gang even feel like they had a real impact on the story. As far as Pokemon movies go, this is essentially perfect. And that brings me to number 1, The Power of Us. You know what? We may not have gotten any movies featuring the Sun and Moon cast, which does suck, but we did get this movie, and that's fucking great. What's actually pretty interesting is that when Trent and I were watching the movies on our own and creating our own ranking lists, our top 3 were identical. You'll notice that I said as far as Pokemon movies go, Master of Illusions was pretty much perfect. Well, Trent and I both agreed that The Power of Us ranks as the best Pokemon movie to date because it feels like more than just a Pokemon movie.
We knew something was special here, especially finding out our top 3 were identical. We agreed that Zoroark and Lucario offered great movie experiences for Pokemon fans, but something about The Power of Us was special. I've tossed this word around a bit, but this is the epitome of unique. More so than any other Pokemon movie to date.
The Power of Us actually has an inherent advantage over pretty much every other Pokemon movie other than I Choose You, because it takes place in this weird alternate timeline. This means they had the chance to bring in a whole new cast of characters specifically for this movie, which was great because it wasn't limited to characters who get all their development away from the movies in the main show. This finally allowed them to develop a whole new set of characters from scratch and go in new directions with Pokemon characters that hadn't really ever been explored before. This movie's driving force is its characters, namely the human ones. Just about every single one of them, other than Ash, are given real-life problems and anxiety that they are able to overcome through friendship with people and Pokemon. A high school student indifferent about Pokemon is able to overcome her self-doubt and anxiety through her trust with her Eevee. A guy that just wants to be the coolest uncle around that lies to everyone to seem way better than he is, learns to be himself through his partnership with a pseudo-Udo. Those are just 2 examples of some of the absolutely wonderful character development in this movie. The characters in this movie were compelling, interesting, unique, and just generally amazing. And Ash is the one who is able to spark all of this change. All of the other characters come to admire his character and the trust he has with Pikachu, and strive to battle their own personal problems with friendship. This really makes it feel like Ash has a real impact on these characters in the best way. Sure, he does spit out the phrase Pokemon power one too many times, but even that couldn't take away from the wonderful character work in this movie. The only character I would say isn't amazing is Zeraora. It goes through the whole generic, I don't like humans, but I like this little girl because she's nice and brings me food, but I learn later on in the movie that not all humans are bad and sacrifice myself for them at one point. Angle that is really, really overdone at this point. But even still, Zeraora is so fucking badass in this movie, and still a decent character, that even that played out, overused angle worked for me. Even Margot, who doesn't really get much development, is interesting because her father is the mayor and often neglects her, giving her this element of relatability just like the uncle that many other characters in other movies don't have. So this means every character, even Ash, is at least solid. That is certainly a first.
The animation this time around is smooth, modern, and actually looks like a well-produced anime movie, rather than your typical Pokemon movie. You can tell time and care was put into each frame, when they add more detail into someone picking up a Pokeball than the entirety of Destiny Deoxys, you know you've got some passionate directors. Now, granted, The Power of Us is one of the latest entries in the Pokemon movie world, so of course the animation would have improved. But here, it just feels like more care was given to it. I Choose You looked great, no doubt about it, but The Power of Us just has something special. The scenery is gorgeous, having this large architectural city be placed in between a large mountain forest and the ocean was really smart. Not only does it give the movie a more expansive atmosphere, it allows the animators and artists to show off just how good they really are. Something Pokemon has always struggled with, purely because it's targeted at kids, is comedy. Jokes are always hit or miss with Pokemon. However here, it's genuinely funny. The uncle has his fair share of jokes that land with adults and kids. The whole eyebrow gag was random but still hilarious. Then Togepi uses fucking Hydro Pump near the end, and it's one of the funniest moments, and it brought real fucking tears to my eyes, I'm not gonna lie. Anyway, for these reasons, we've placed The Power of Us as our #1 Pokemon movie. We cannot recommend it enough. It is a genuinely special work of art, and we hope you give it a watch for yourself, if you haven't already. Also, an interesting footnote Gus and I noticed, the 3 Pokemon movies we believe are the best all feature anthropomorphic Pokemon on 2 feet, standing eye to eye with humans. Lucario, Zoroark, and now Zeraora. Is that strange?
Furry fan art, here we come!
No!
Thanks for watching and sticking with us to make it all the way to the end of this absolute barn burner of a list. Again, big thanks to Trent for coming in for this list.
Thanks for having me along, mate. Here's to more collaborations in the future. And thanks to all of you for sticking along with us. This is Trent and I, signing out.
Click that box on the left there to watch Trent and I's more relaxed, more detailed discussion on this list and each movie, going into more detail about stuff we liked and stuff we didn't like a podcast sort of deal. Click the box on the right to listen to my brand new Pokemon album, This Dream, where I covered 13 different Pokemon songs, most of which you'll hear open these movies. I'm super proud of it, so I really hope you'll give it a shot. It's also on Spotify, Apple Music, all that jazz. Just search Silver Storm. Click Trent's channel icon to go over to his channel and give him a subscribe. And of course, click my channel icon to subscribe to this channel, where more Pokemon anime and other nerdy content is headed your way soon. Thanks again, everyone, and I'll talk to you all soon.